go into, because the system is so complex, it can be very difficult to try to, tease out exactly what the effects of it will be on the whole. But if you think, again, in terms of this system where money is just one thing, we all know how to value it, and prices can adapt based on the needs, then we can be quick, we can be efficient. But when we print money, it just creates all these distortions. And that's, again, it's why, we're seeing it feels like we're going backwards in society right now, because we're just creating all these illusions and pushing value into things that maybe aren't valuable or aren't necessary.
So if money wasn't printed, then a lot of those, large corporations, banks, institutions, might go bust and not have, any bailouts, which in turn might really affect the economy to a point where a lot of aspects of the economy might collapse. Right now,
the economy is overblown, right? Like, we are way unbalanced. Everything is financialized. These institutions are not necessarily adding the value they should be. And frankly, when a business is irresponsible, they are supposed to fail. It happens to mom and pop shops. If they don't manage their budget, they go under. Corporations shouldn't get, there's no exception to this. If we reward failure, then we also have to, punish success.
But do you think the rationale or the justification behind it is that these large corporations are being bailed out because of the fact that they have a large impact on the economies of those countries?
But we should be asking how we got to the point that they became so central to everything, right? If they are so necessary, but they're not effective, then they shouldn't exist, right? If they're not there to serve the people, if they're not providing value, then we don't want these things. We shouldn't want these things. And if they fail and go bust, is it going to be painful? Sure. There's no way. You don't have the boom. Like, be leery of the boom. The fact that we went shooting up with certain things, like, where does that come from in terms of stocks or real estates or whatever? Why did we shoot up? Is real estate really that valuable, or is the stock market really that valuable? No, it's money distorting things. What should have happened, when I started my career in 2006 and the financial bubble happened, and it wasn't, the global financial crisis happened. What should have happened is those banks should have gone under. And you know what would have happened? Yeah, it would have been painful in the short term, but entrepreneurs who were responsible, investors who saved their money and who had excess capital available could scoop up those defunct assets, incorporate them into better, more efficient businesses, learn from the mistakes, and we would have better institutions today. But instead, we've rewarded failure. And so these same crappy businesses continue. And so when we started going up, now we're just continuing up further, promoting more and more failure. And what's going to happen is, we should have a pretty dramatic crash. The crash is the cure. Like, we need that crash. And we're very lucky today that we have Bitcoin, because it'll help soften the blow of that crash. We didn't have it in 2007, but we have it today. So
is that why you see a lot of these large corporation institutions moving their treasury dollars into Bitcoin? I mean, this is a backdrop or safe haven from what's going on in the economy today, because they may expect another drop from this pump that's taking place, which does not really have any value, but is coming out of money that was created out of thin air.
They see the writing on the wall, right? Like, they understand that dollars are now a liability, that dollars, we know factually that they depreciate in value, in purchasing power over time. So, like, if you're earning dollars, you don't actually want dollars. Like, the whole point of money is it's a means to an end, right? I want to use money so that I can live a better life. I want to, my kids and my grandkids and all that, I want, my family to have a better life, and I want society to be safer and a more pleasant place for them. And money is a conduit to that. So I want our world to gravitate towards the best money, since everything that happens in the world is driven by money, right? Every little thing, every person who's shuffling paper and, building things, they're motivated by money. That's the incentive mechanism of all transactions in society. If we have crappy money, we have crappy outcomes. This should be becoming more and more and more obvious to people. If we have good money and stop thinking of money as a quantitative thing in terms of, well, if only there was more money around in society, to buy all the stuff we need, then we'd be fine. No, printing money doesn't create valuable goods. Good interactions, good trusted, trustworthy commerce, agreeable commerce. That's what creates value for people in society. And the only way to do that is with higher quality money. And Bitcoin is the highest quality money that the world has ever had.
When you come back to the point that you need the most efficient and most highest quality money available today, which you're saying is Bitcoin, and that is because of the fact that Bitcoin is a coded, has coded monetary policies that allow you to instill trust without depending on third parties, because of the fact that the blockchain runs as a trust and transaction protocol, and the difference between trust-based systems and proof-based systems allows you to work with Bitcoin on the most efficient way possible and to have a higher quality of life. And I think what would be valuable here is for you to give us some more, to shed more color on what I just said with regards to trust-based and proof-based systems.
Yeah. So, right now, all the trust in the system is with the central banks to manage the money supply, but we don't need to trust them. And frankly, we shouldn't trust them because they consistently abuse that trust. Bitcoin, and also, they create by their very nature uncertainty, right? We don't know what next week's monetary policy is. We don't know how much money they're going to print next week, next month, next year. So when you think, I make $50,000 a year, I make $100,000 a year, my savings are worth, whatever, $75,000. The numbers don't matter. The point is, you have to measure that against all the other dollars in existence. And when you have no clarity on how much money is in existence today or into the future, then how do you measure your wealth? It's a faulty scale for measuring, because Bitcoin's monetary policy was transparent and laid out crystal clear. We know there's 21 million coins. There's this predetermined schedule. Everyone knows what it is, or, you can go find it very, very easily. There is clarity on money going forward. And that clarity means we don't have to think and worry and plan around, well, if they change the monetary policy, then I have to react. If they print more money, well, now cash becomes that much more less safe. So now I have to react accordingly and take whatever action that maybe I didn't want to do before. I'm going to take more risk because I'm more worried about my cash being devalued. Bitcoin doesn't have that problem. It's very, very clear. And then why, and that's part of what makes for good money, right? Yes, the decentralized nature, the clarity of monetary policy is great, but there's a number of attributes or characteristics that, lend to money being credible. And so, traditionally those are, money should be durable, meaning that it can stand the test of time, that, one Bitcoin today is still one Bitcoin 100 years from now. It won't deteriorate. Money should be portable, meaning it should be easy to take it with you or send it across the world, wherever. There should be very little barriers to moving it. It should be divisible, so we can split it into small quantities, assemble it into larger ones. Just like a dollar is divided into 100 cents, one Bitcoin is divided into 100 million Satoshis. So 0.0000001 of a Bitcoin is a Satoshi, and that's the smallest unit of Bitcoin. Money should be scarce, right? Ideally, we have a very precise idea of how much money is out there in total. So in Bitcoin, we know that there's only ever going to be 21 million coins. But when the money supply, again, keeps changing, it makes it very hard to value. So scarcity is something that's good and valuable. Gold in the past was pretty good at being money because it was scarce. We knew that we only tend to find, about 2% more gold a year. So we had a pretty fixed idea of what it would be, but Bitcoin has improved on that to make it perfectly scarce. Money should also be fungible. So meaning that, it's very easy to identify authentic units of money, and you can exchange them with each other in one unit here, or, if I send one unit somewhere and then someone else pays me another unit, there's no real difference between them. They're all, identical in nature, and they're hard to counterfeit. And so, with Bitcoin, I can check my node, I can check my wallet. If Bitcoin arrives in my wallet, then I was sent authentic Bitcoin because it's verified on the network. With gold, maybe my gold is gold-plated tungsten, which is just a heavy waste metal, and they covered it with gold to try to counterfeit it. And so it's not that easy to check. You have to have some specialized equipment to check that your gold is really gold. And with those attributes, money can fulfill its functions, which are to be a medium of exchange. So it's, we agree that it's useful for sending and receiving, and we're willing to accept it as such in exchange for goods and services. It should be a unit of account, meaning that it is easy, or it standardizes the measurement of value so that we can accurately and efficiently determine pricing. And then it should be a store of value. So it has beneficial qualities, that we want to preserve over time and that are worth preserving over time. And Bitcoin checks all those boxes. It's not like gold. It's not a physical possession. And that's a good thing that it's not physical. I can just know my Bitcoin in my head. I think Knut Svanholm, who's written a couple of books on Bitcoin, who's just a wonderful, wonderful speaker on all things Bitcoin. He has a line that says, Bitcoin is blurring the lines between knowing and owning. And that is very, very powerful.
Bitcoin's risk reward profile is interesting because, a lot of people that I know are trying to get into Bitcoin and they want to know more. It's just a matter of seeing where Bitcoin was if you're, denominating it in US dollars and you're looking at it from that perspective, and where it is today. People think, it's too late. It's already at the highest it's ever been almost. So, what would you tell someone that's looking at Bitcoin's risk reward profile and someone that wants to get in now but is hesitant on that?
I think you need to start, number one. Like, you just have to start. If you've never used it, first of all, experiencing Bitcoin is one of the best things you can do to really solidify its value proposition. So buy $5 or $10 worth of Bitcoin on whatever exchange, send it to a wallet that you control. So, you can download, for instance, Blue Wallet in the iOS or App Store. I mean, as an Android or Apple store. It's an open source wallet that is just, held in pretty high regard in the Bitcoin community. It'll allow you to take possession of your private keys, and it'll walk you through the steps. And send it, you bought it with cash on an exchange. And so the Bitcoin is sitting in the exchange. It is at that time, while your name is attached to it, it is still on their balance sheet. They hold it as an IOU to you. You want to remove it and take possession of it yourself in a wallet that you control, so that you are the bearer of those Bitcoins, that only you control its fate. Try that, and then try sending it back. And you'll pay a couple dollars in transaction fees along the way. And that's a very small price to feel the experience of sending and receiving Bitcoin and being responsible for it. That is a huge teacher. That was when I first, bought some, I already sort of had a little bit of an idea of what this was all about, but that really helped the light bulb go off for me to see the network in action, to really feel it. And there's this like exhilaration when you first send a Bitcoin transaction, when you withdraw it from the exchange and it disappears from the exchange. And there's a few minutes where it's like in cyberspace, and did I do something wrong? Did something happen? Where is it? And then a couple minutes later, it arrives on your phone because there is an intense process going on in the background to ensure that your transaction is very secure. And then when it arrives on the other end, you're like, that's the big light bulb thing. Like, whoa, the network just like worked for me, and I can use the network, and that's really cool.
I remember that experience.
Yeah.
when you have to wait for a few confirmations, but you're not aware of it, and all of a sudden you're like, where's my money?
Yeah. And I mean, I'll throw it a caution just for, friends and people that are just getting started, for that first test transaction. If you're sending $5 or $10, like, listen, if you accidentally copy and paste or type in a wrong letter for the wallet and you lose it, a small amount of money is not going to be the end of the world. If you ever do it with whatever you would consider to be a more significant amount of money, I recommend, doing a test run first to make sure that the wallet works. So send, if you're going to send 1 Bitcoin, maybe send 0.01 Bitcoin first, send 1% or whatever small amount of it first. Make sure it gets there, that the wallet works, and then you send the rest. So for bigger transactions, that's just some advice. And always double check the wallet address, because you need to be precise. That's part of the personal responsibility element of Bitcoin, that no one is responsible but you. If you make a mistake, there's no administrator to contact. It's on you. And that's again, sort of a feature, not a bug of Bitcoin, that it promotes that personal responsibility. And that's, something the world is sort of sorely in need of these days, because everyone's relying on their, these safety nets that have holes in them. And we can't do that. We can't live like that.
And that's why education around Bitcoin and the use of Bitcoin is very important. And people
Very
should
much so.
definitely, do their research and always feel